I had the opportunity to research the Roosevelt Institute. With its main office located in New York City, New York, the Roosevelt Institute is a think tank, a student network, and the nonprofit partner to the Franklin D. Roosevelt Presidential Library and Museum. Its greater mission is focused on curbing concentrated corporate power and reclaiming public power in order to improve equity, inclusion, and sustainability. A report released in 2019 explained the Roosevelt Institute's core beliefs on reducing the power of large corporations by encouraging them to invest in research and development, as well as education, roads and bridges, and public programs in order to shift the balance of power in America back to the people. As a think tank, it is not primarily concerned with educational policy analysis, as it has a larger purpose and mission focused on 6 key areas: climate and economic transformation, corporate power, macroeconomic analysis, race and democracy, worker power and economic security, and U.S. tax policies. The Roosevelt Network acts as both a network and community for undergraduate students and young professionals. It offers mentoring opportunities, training, events, and career support, and includes a progression of fellowship programs. Finally, the Roosevelt Institute, as a nonprofit, helps fund the Franklin D. Roosevelt Presidential Library and Museum, which is the first presidential library in America. Funding supports special exhibits, educational programs, and public events that helps bring the Roosevelt's legacy to everyone. The Roosevelt Institute is funded by a variety of foundation grants. It's received over $5 million in grant funding from the MacArthur Foundation since 1997, as well as millions of dollars in additional grants from the Ford Foundation, the William Flora Hewlett Foundation, the Bauman Foundation, and Pivotal, a philanthropic organization founded by Melinda French Gates. Additional funding sources come from donations made by members or just the general public. The Roosevelt Institute publishes blog posts, press releases, policy briefs, and occasional reports, such as their student debt repayment policy analysis. Their content reflects a clear, progressive political view, and they advocate for stronger federal oversight, debt relief, and equity in education. What education policy topics have they published in the last 2 to 3 years? There's definitely a few. There are 3 that caught my eye were year-round education options. The policy brief proposed to consolidate current funding to invest in summer programs, enrichment opportunities, and childcare options that keep kids engaged during the summer months and during the breaks when school's not in session, for those working families who struggle to find quality childcare when school is out. Another was about the student loan repayment plans. When the Supreme Court voted to cancel the federal debt relief plan through student loan forgiveness, the Roosevelt Institute published a blog advocating for the use of income-driven repayment plans to lower monthly payments and prevent compounding interest for student loan borrowers. And finally, another that was recently published, for financial support of historically black colleges and universities in the state of Maryland, after a 15-year federal lawsuit over Maryland's unfair treatment of its historically black colleges and universities. The state agreed to pay $577 million to a coalition that included 4 historically black colleges and universities in the state of Maryland. In a policy brief, Crystal Farisha, a recent Columbia University graduate, suggested that Maryland do even more by offering things like free tuition for those students who are eligible for the Pell Grant, or even creating a loan repayment program for college graduates in Maryland of HBCUs. For most of the policy briefs that I explored and the publications, they use a synthesis of data as opposed to collecting and developing their own data sets. They are pulling data from different government reports, academic research, and different public databases that they're using to make connections to and present their findings in a way that support their policy goals. The political or ideological stance of the organization is definitely more progressive. The Roosevelt Institute leans heavily into strong government intervention and addresses corporate power, supporting labor rights and racial and gender inequalities. The vast majority of publications do reflect their commitment to these values and ideologies. And finally, I do think they're a scholarly source, but they're not necessarily one that I would see as credible for supporting or writing in a dissertation, as they do have political bias in them. And so while they would be helpful in really thinking about how to frame a policy analysis, I would not necessarily use them as a dissertation support.